Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this new Nicolodi architectural webinar. I hope you all hear me loud and clear. We made a test a couple of minutes ago, so it should be working now. But in case this is not possible for you, okay, very clear. So I got the answer. Thank you, Fabio. So today we're going to speak about the starting parameters of the STICK-DE3 using Hardware Manager program. So it might be something a bit boring. I can understand that, and I agree with it, but this is something very important for the future if you have to set up a STICK-DE3 or any other controller from the Nicolodi architectural range, as they almost all offer the same features, with of course some features that could be available in the D3, not in the CW4, for example. But if you understand with the D3, you will be able to manage this with all other products. One important thing is everything I'll be talking about will be, of course, available as a recorded video later on our YouTube channel. But there is also a possibility to read those information in the product datasheet. We actually have a nice datasheet as a PDF file on the website, and all features are available there. I'm going to share now the link so you can find it out later. So the text. Okay, so this is the link for the STICK-DE3 PDF file. So it summarizes what I will be talking about today, or like starting parameters, and also some wiring and other information you might need for future installation. So let's go. Let's start with the Hardware Manager. So when you plug a STICK-DE3, it appears, or any other product, it appears on the left side of the controller. So I can see here there's someone here in the building with a CUD10A, which is another device connected over Ethernet. When you plug over USB, there is this sign on the icon or the Ethernet here. As you can see, if I now disconnect the STICK-DE3 from my computer, it disappears, and I can connect it again, and it should come back at some point. Here it is. So when you press the device, there are like some new icons coming on the right side, which are all the information you'll be able to either see or change or update from the Hardware Manager. The first tab, information, shows the serial number. This is something you need to be careful of. This is a number that we might ask you in the future in case of technical problem. This in case you have to contact our tech support. This is the first thing we're gonna have to ask you, as this is something like to make sure that the product is recorded and to check like if the warranty has expired or not, or some information like that. So make sure eventually when you install a controller to write this somewhere at your office, just so you know what serial number has been installed in a specific place. It just take a few seconds to read it, and this might save some time later on. This information is available here on the information window, or on the label at the back of the stick itself. There is a yellow label at the back, and it shows the product serial number as well. So the next tab, is the firmware. In that section, you'll be able to update the firmware, or at least check what version the device is running. As you can see here, I have a 2.24 version when the version available with the other manager is 2.10 only. That's because I'm testing a very last firmware. Like, this is a testing firmware I have here, so it is not available for the public so far. So you're gonna have to wait a couple of weeks to see it available. But the official one is 2.10 at the moment, which is dated from July 2018. The reason why we will be coming with this new feature is the add of some new internet possibilities in the future. This is something I'll be talking about at the end of the webinar. In case you have to update, very simple, press the firmware update, and please do not unplug or replug the USB cable before this screen came back to this state, the firmware update button available. This is very important, as this might damage the controller if you unplug the cable during the process. DMX in and out are two tabs where you, in fact, for the DE3 it's DMX out only, but this is where you can see the two DMX universe and eventually test them. So, for example, if you want to test the universe number 1, you don't need to start the software or whatever like that. You just like plug a couple of features, or even with the DMX tester, you could just move up and down the 512 DMX channels and make sure the device is correctly sending DMX. The information on the right side of these faders is something you might not have to use, but sometimes there are some, as you know, like the DMX. If I don't want to get too deep into the DMX, but there are several possibilities to make DMX controllers, especially receivers, and sometimes the DMX signal might be too fast or too slow, even if it's in the norm. Like there are 2 points A and B for the DMX controller. You need to be somewhere between those A and B point, but for the receiver you need to be able to read everything from A to B, and this is sometimes something that is not possible with some devices. So we give the possibility to update those DMX timings, and you need to press the first button to do that. And these are the 4 parameters you could have to change. We do recommend, however, to use the preset we have created here. So the standard is what we set up the controller with, like from the factory, but there is the possibility to make like the signal faster or slower, or even like this one, which is like with different settings. So this might be something you're gonna have to do at some point. And I know sometime we have some customers using DMX to SPI or LED pixel stuff coming from China, and the communication is sometimes a bit difficult. There can be like some flickering, for example. You could have for some reason, like a features in the middle of DMX line, which is not understanding the signal before saying that there is a problem with the wiring, or with the DE3, or with any other controller. You might be able to solve the problem with those DMX signal timing. Anyway, 95% of the time, even 99%, you won't have to update this, but you need to know it's possible. And of course, you can do that with the Universe 1 and the Universe 2 here. Every time you make change, there is this red button at the bottom of the screen, which is to tell you, like, hey, you have to press this button to store this information, the change you've made into the controller. The fourth tab is the input output port. So this is where you will be able to test the 8 ports of the controller from 1 to 8, and eventually the buttons. So if you can see, like, if I press here the left around the controller, you can see there are some the red dots turns to green when I press, for example, here the on off. This should be the dimmer. I got the color here. I'm just now pressing the touch panel on the DE3. So this is good. Like, imagine you are on site and the customer tells you, like, I cannot, this button doesn't work. Before doing anything else, open the other manager and check that the buttons are correctly working. If they don't have, if you imagine you press the right side button here and it doesn't do that on the other manager, there is like some hardware problem with the device. Same at the back, there is this 20-pin connector at the back of the DE3. And this is where you can connect any contact laser device, like a smoke detector or whatever, like a simple push button. And you can also here test the port. So I'm testing the number 3 here, but if I move, I just have a piece of metal to test. If I want to test another one, this, let's say, for example, the 1. Okay, here you can test the number 1. Very basic things, but again, it can be important. It can be like very useful to know this is available in order to service the product and avoid long conversation with our tech support sometime, because you'll be talking to someone who doesn't get direct to the doesn't thinks like there is a problem with the programming. In fact, this is just like a wrong connection or whatever like that. So now we will be starting with the important parameters of the product. So the clock, of course, there is a built-in clock inside the controller, built-in clock and calendar. This is an astronomical clock, so it allows to do some sunset and sunrise calculation, daylight saving, and stuff like that, and in order to start trigger your lighting scenes. But the first option to do is to tell the controller what time it is. So very simple. You can either synchronize to the system, so it detects the Mac or Windows, your computer time, and you can set this. So this is what is like the time here in France. So it's almost 4:15, and the date. And you can apply this to the controller. This is the current time zone of the controller. I modified it like a couple of hours ago. I was doing some tests with the triggers. So this is the reason it doesn't show the right date. So if you press here the set button, at some point my device should change. So I guess I need to maybe change the refresh. Okay. So why it doesn't change? Okay. Okay, device clock. This is here. The device time zone is there is an information stored into the device, which is the in fact the time zone. So, and I remember that I have changed this one like a couple of minutes ago. I had to change to New Zealand, no, to New Zealand or somewhere like in the south, as I was testing a feature. So this is why here you can see like it's 1 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday. So again, manual, you can assign like manual information like that, like whatever you want, or just sync to the system. So location and time zone. This is something that is important for daylight saving. Well, for daylight saving, for sunrise and sunset triggers. As I said, there is the possibility for the device to tell you to start a scene or at the either at the sunrise or sunset. But to do that, of course, the controller has to know the position on the planet in order to understand, to know what time he has to do that. So what you simply have to do is select the country. So imagine you are in Paris. You need to select France. Here, do you want to apply the daylight saving rules for France? Yes. There is a database of the future daylight saving dates in for the country. I know this is something we are going to, I think, stop in Europe, if I'm right. This is I guess 2020 is the last year, but not sure about that. In fact, this is like politician stuff, and I'm not always aware of the situation. But I guess this is something we won't do again in 2021. So, but anyway, if it's the information are stored into the device, so if you need them, just press yes. And the city, so we are here in Montpellier. So if I want to select Montpellier, okay, here it is. It doesn't show the temperature in Montpellier, but just for information, today it's about 30 degrees here, so we are very, very happy. You cannot see that, and you're obliged to believe me, but I'm telling you the truth. It's 30 degrees and a nice blue sky. So latitude, longitude, I mean, you can eventually modify those settings. Just need to go to a maps editor, Google Maps, and find the location. If you ever don't find the location on the list, as they might not be available. And the time zone. So we are here on ECT, which is the European Central Time, but you can select like any of the 24 time zone in the world. And then you press store the time zone onto the device. The next option is the NTP, which is if the controller is connected to a internet connection, there is the possibility to get the time from Google. This way, you're sure that your device is always on time. So we recommend to not change these settings. It works perfectly with Google. Daylight saving. This is if you want to use like the information stored by the firmware, you need to use the second option, or you can eventually move to fixed if you want to set up your, for some reason, if there is a delay, like in the information we've stored into the device, you can fix that problem using this button and select like a different date. But by default, this is better to use computed. So we're done with the, oh no, there is the last one, sunrise, sunset. This shows you, in fact, the what time, if you want to check like for today, for example, I can see that the sunrise is scheduled at 6:16 a.m. and the sunset at 21 at night. So this is good to check if the settings are good or not. And here's the complicated part. Well, not complicated, but the part with the most important feature. All those settings are what we call the starting parameters. This is the internal settings of the controller. There is the possibility to change, for example, what the controller is going to do at startup in case of power failure. If you want to disable or enable again, like a button on the controller, just to make sure if you don't want, for example, your controller to access to the wheel and change and being able to change the color, you can specify this here. You can disable, enable other features. Okay, so everything is possible. Everything you can modify as a starting settings in the controller has to be done here. There is in fact another possibility, which is to do that from the controller itself. By pressing and holding the on-off menu of the controller for 5 seconds, you can get into the internal menu. But this is something like, this is a bit like weird to do that in the small screen, and a lot easier here with the other manager. But anyway, if you don't have the computer available on site, there is always a possibility at least to check what I'm directly from the controller. So here, this a complete description of those different options is available in the product data sheet. So you can just read it, and if there is one you don't understand what it is, you can access to the complete documentation in the product data sheet. So the first, for example, like the first options here are if you wanted to disable some of the button. Like, let's say, for example, you don't want to the customer to access to the color and speed or button, you can disable them here. This way, the customer will no longer be able to update, for example, the dimmer intensity of the current scene or the color. This Autotime here is allows you to change and to specify like the amount of time it will take for the controller to return to the default mode in case you for example unlock if you had locked the controller with the like this, you lock the panel. There is a touch. There is some combination of touch to on the panel to unlock, and if you don't touch the product again for like 120 seconds, it will return to the default mode. So this is what you can do here. After those 2 minutes, you need to select what the controller is going to do. So by default, you return to the scene function, but you could select something different like nothing or dimmer or color or speed. So we recommend to turn back to scene, but you could do whatever you want. So yeah, so here a couple of feature you could have to update. This is if you want to assign like a specific feature to the left and right arrow of the left and right buttons. So by default, they allow you to move from scene to scene, but you could specify for some reason a different feature. Same for the color wheel. Well, the palette, I mean the wheel, you can assign like a different feature, disable it. So different possibilities. The next one, the scene, is all options dedicated to the scene. For example, if you press this one here, the controller is going to display an empty off scene before the scene 0 every time. I mean, there will be like in every zone. If you just want to have like a off scene to turn everything off, you just need to press that button, and by default, even if there is nothing included into your show, like in the show you've programmed before, there will be like this off scene at the very beginning of the list. Here some two options if you want to give the possibility to pause and stop the being played scene. Here an important option. This is what the controller has to do between two scenes. So by default, it uses the information from the show. For example, there is a possibility to specify a fade time between scene directly from the software. You could specify, like for example, 2, 3, 4 seconds between scene 3 and 4. So this is this information will be taken from the show. But for some reason, if you just want to not store any fade information within the show and have them force inside the controller, you can select force here, and for example, select like 5 seconds here. So now between each scene, there will be like a 5 seconds fade time. Another option will be to select, to give the controller the possibility to select the greatest or the smallest time duration between the show and the information stored here. So imagine, for example, you select greatest, and here I have set up 2 seconds. The controller will look at those 2 seconds and the information stored into the show. So if into the show, like you have selected 3 seconds, this will be the controller will select 3 seconds. If it was one only, then it will force the fade time to 2 seconds. Here is an important also option of the controller. Remember, like the change made by the color wheel or like the other buttons like dimmer or speed, they are never saved by default, but you can have those information saved. So this is like an option you can specify here. If you don't want, like you want, for example, the information to be saved, so it means that the customer will have to release manually. You can have this information saved here, or like auto reset, which I guess the dimmer and speed and color are saved into the scene. Trigger. This is there are like a couple of information. So this is how like a scene is started when you press the next and previous button, the 2 buttons located on the left and the right side of the screen. So automatic means the every time you press this button, the next button, for example, if you are currently in the scene 2, if you press next, the scene 3 will be called like right away. And if you press time delay, there is a possibility to a short delay is added. So for some reason, if you just want like the scene to not start like immediately, you can specify this. And the scene button, the last option, means you have to validate. So imagine you select a scene with like you press the button next again and again until like scene 9. If you want to have this validated, you need to press the scene button again. Very simple, but the customer might have to ask this, or might need this option, so you can do that. First, start, very important. This is what to do when the device is powered. So, for example, you can specify some different things. You could say like, I want as soon as the device is switched on, I want the scene off to be called. Then you need to select this. recover means the device will be looking at the calendar triggers in order to look for something you would have. For example, imagine there are some calendar events. Your show is imagine there is your show to the computer. There is a scene to be started at 8 in the morning, and for some reason there is a power failure at 7 o'clock, and the power comes back at 9, which means that the scene that was supposed to be called at 8 wasn't called. So the device will look in the time trigger table and see that there was a scene supposed to be started, and it will start it accordingly. So these are very important features, and this is something that you need to set up correctly. So there are like tons of possibilities, and this is very good to know how this works. The triggers, this is where you activate or disable like the different possibilities. So by default, there is like time port, RS-232, UDP. There are like some important features, and we give the possibility to disable or enable them from here. Graphics, they are like basic features, basic option of the screen color display. So you can authorize the loading of a bitmap file. You can set in display. There is a sleep time as well. You can update the brightness. I mean, some different options here for the only like for the display. DMX output. This is not complicated, but something a bit sometimes difficult to understand for the customer. In fact, imagine you are using different page of scenes. This allows you to this enables to select like different possibilities of working. So by default, it's latest text priority, which means that the last scene called will have the possibility, will have the priority. Imagine you have seen a scene in the page A and a scene in page B. As soon as you will be pressing a scene, whether it's located on the A or on the B, it will have the priority. And with alphabetic, it will the scene located on the page A will have the priority on page B, and so on. B on page C, and so on. This is here. Remember the sensitive means the English word is not very correct. We need to update this. This is how to modify. Remember, the device is a touch-sensitive device, which means it works with what we call a cap-sensitive technology. And the device adapts the sensitivity to the environment. For example, for some reason, you might be in a cool environment, in a very warm, humid. I mean, the device is able to adapt itself to this environment. For this, those options allows you to modify a bit those settings. So, for example, USB means as soon as the device is plugged or unplugged, the device will calculate the sensitivity again and just reset the settings. Autotime means how long it takes for the device to reset and eventually adapt its sensitivity again. And iSense is for some reason, imagine your customer says like the panel is too sensitive, you can untick that box, and so this will require a stronger press on the or longer press on the button to start to trigger it. Language is just to simply change the language of the internal menu. You know, like as I said before, all those options are available from the internal menu, so you can select the language here. Device name, just if you want to reset the name of the controller, specify a different name. You can see Bruno here, but you can call like the device with whatever you want. This and this is last option is for the internet remote control. This is something that is not available in the current hardware manager. So I will talk about it a bit later, but at the moment this is just like a testing option we've got here in the in this version. So I guess we're done with the settings. So most of the time you won't have to change this, but this is important to know how it works. Ethernet, where you can find the Ethernet settings of the device. Important thing, thus the changes made here have to be done over USB. It isn't possible to update like the IP address if you are over USB, of course. So these are basic Ethernet information, whether you use DHCP or not, and then like the 4 different settings like IP address, the network mask, the gateway, and the DNS for the access to the internet. The internet tab is something we'll be using for internet access to the device. So just so you know, the cloud feature, the internet Nicola cloud feature will be introduced to the public in June, so in 2 or 3 weeks now. And of course, you will have to modify to some of the features here if you want your device to be accessible from the internet. To just give you like a quick tour of what will be available, you will have the possibility to update, to change all those settings directly from the internet. So imagine you have like a stick controller installed somewhere in Australia, your office is based in Frankfurt, Germany. You will be able to access to the device remotely and update all the settings. Of course, this means the controller is connected to a working internet connection, but this will make you able to save time and money. You will also have the possibility to upload a new show file or to fire a trigger. So imagine there is like the customer wants you to start a scene remotely. You'll be able to do that from your office. You will have also the possibility to give some limited access to the customer. And then the standalone, which is the last tab, where you can format the SD card and also write the demo show. Like the show is coming by default with a 3 channels RGB patch on the 1024 channels. You can turn back to default by pressing this button here, or just like write an empty show with 0, so to deliver the code. being to PC. Okay, so I guess we're done. We've seen everything, all the features available from the other manager. So again, this is an important tool you need to always have with you on your computer. It is included with the installation files of any of the programming software, but it's always good to when you have to go on site to service a product, to download the very last version. This way, you make sure you will be able to write the latest firmware, just in case we might have fixed the problem your customer is experiencing. I don't know if you guys have any question. I'm done for today. I guess we've seen everything. Of course, there are some, you could find some different features with other devices, but most of the time, like the most important feature are the same, like IP address, starting parameters, and the clock and stuff like that. Thank you for watching, and as usual, the recording will be available in a couple of hours on the YouTube channel. Bye-bye.